All right, it's the Rich Eisen Show. Chris Mannix, Sports Illustrated, filling in for Rich. Rich will be back tomorrow, jetting back from London. The private DirecTV jet is somewhere over Arkansas. It is here. It'll be landing sometime in the next 12 hours. Sitting here now, though, Arash Markazi, senior columnist over... Our senior columnist? Plaschke's kind of the senior columnist,
the senior
right?
Columnist.
Plaschke wrote a great column on the Chargers that I want to get into with you a little bit later on. But columnist, LA Times. Arash, I want to talk some basketball with you first. It's great to see LA relevant. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I mean, I feel that way about New York, having lived there, and you live there as well, but Knicks have been like decades of irrelevance. Now you have two teams in LA that are both high level, at least look high level, and relevant. But the better of the two teams right now, the team that you would predict to go further in the playoffs right now would be which? Clippers or Lakers?
I thought Clippers at the beginning of the season just because I knew how some of those guys fit together, and I kind of sensed how Kawhi and Paul George would fit on this team. I did not foresee how quickly the Lakers would gel. The LeBron and Anthony Davis dynamic, Dwight Howard playing well, and we'll see how long that lasts. They've really played well. And I really cautioned people that first game of the season. They were like, oh, like, look at the Clippers. I said that, first of all, the Clippers, I think, are going to be the best team in the league. And the Lakers are right behind them. So I really do believe, and I know we've talked about this before, I think those are the top two teams in the league. And I think we're going to see, for the first time, a hallway series, which we have not seen here before.
Okay, can you just pump the brakes on the Lakers stuff?
6 games in. This is fantastic. Look at that Shaq Kobe. That's like Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Lakers Twitter hates me almost as much as Knicks Twitter. It's
you
close.
were right last season because you were the first guy that I remember that you said they're not going to make the playoffs. And I still think if they were healthy, they would have made the playoffs. Yeah, you were the first guy that I remember saying you're like they're not going to make the playoffs.
What's that cliche about horseshoes and hand grenades?
You don't think this team's not? They're for sure going to make the playoffs, right?
We kind of chatted about it media day. Yeah. I know one thing is the clip that went out there. We talked about this in the first hour. That went kind of quasi-viral on me. Was me saying that the Lakers have a better chance of missing the playoffs and winning a championship. Exactly. I still think that's true because I can't get fully invested in this Laker team when two of their wins have come against Charlotte and Memphis.
No, don't look at the wins, but just look at how they're playing. Does it look like this could be a championship contending team? And I think if you just watch them play, they're a championship contending team.
I think if LeBron gets to the playoffs, you can't bet against him. LeBron in the postseason is still the scariest player out there. I know Kawhi Leonard has proven himself to be a great postseason player, but LeBron in a 7-game series, I'm not betting against him, especially with talent around him.
But Chris, and we've talked about this, I am fascinated by Dwight Howard because for the first time in his career, he's really being told this is your role. He's not being brought in to be like, you could be the star. Like, there is no chance of him being a star on this team. He has a specific role. He has embraced that role, and he's played really well. I mean, he's giving them exactly what they need.
He has played exceptionally well for most of the start of the season. And I will admit, if this continues, I was dead wrong on Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Because
most of the league, too.
Most of the league. But it was an earned distinction.
100%.
I mean, you look back, what was it, 2 years ago? I want to say, when was he in Charlotte? Was it 2 years ago?
So, I mean, he's played for 6 teams in 6 years.
I know, and the teams he hasn't played for. Like, Brooklyn had him for a split second. Memphis just bought him out. But he was in Charlotte, and he played 81 games that year. Oh. And he averaged 16 and 12. I think it was 3 years ago. Averaged 16 and 12. And he had one team that wanted to sign him, the Washington Wizards. They wanted to sign him. Yeah. Like, you are still, like... Was it early 30s, let's say, when he was in Charlotte, maybe even late 20s, and you averaged 16 and 12? Like, take the name Dwight Howard away from it. 16 and 12 over 81 games, you're getting like a max contract from some teams. And you had the Wizards out there being like, do we want to guarantee the second year? Do we want to? Golden State, before they got DeMarcus Cousins, they kicked the tires on that. Like, nah, we're good. We're taking the Cousins guy from Sacramento who's got the blown Achilles. Like, we're going to go with that guy. I mean, I'm stunned by how well Dwight Howard has played. And, the book on him, Arash, and I'm not sure what you found in talking to people, but when he was in Charlotte, it wasn't so much like he's this cancer and he shows up late and he do all this. It was the passive-aggressive stuff. It was like the occasional weird locker room speech where he tried to be a leader. It was awkward. It was on the floor. On the floor, it was like, he doesn't get a touch from Kemba Walker, and he's putting his face in his jersey going,
so sensitive.
And then, as one coach down there told me, he's like, the play calls for a pick and roll. he picks and pops and shoots his broke bleep jump shot.
Yeah.
Like that was the line from the coach that I talked to down there. So it was little things that bothered people about him. But he is for the first time practicing what he preached.
Exactly. And for him to get a non-guaranteed contract, for them to basically say, we're going to bring you in, last chance corral. If you don't make it, like, you're done. And he's really embraced that role. And again, I mean, the first time here, it's like night and day. That relationship he had with Kobe was terrible, just for the examples you brought. I mean, when I heard, when he was being recruited to come back, and they were like, well, Kobe's going to be in the meeting. I'm like, Kobe's going to be in the meeting. Kobe's going to tell him to, like, get the hell out of here. So it's good to see. You want to see players like that do well, and so I'm very happy for Dwight.
You sat down with Kobe recently for a column there. What does Kobe say now about that relationship?
He realizes that it was just a bad fit at that time, but he's happy for him. And he realizes that, like, certain guys need to be, I mean, he basically had his, if the Lakers did not sign him, Chris, and you know this, he may not be in the league. So when you're in that position, you kind of have that moment of clarity where you're like, okay, all that stuff I did before, like, I got to stop it. So, like, the things that people don't like about me, as much as that's still me, I can't do that, and this is my role. So he's happy for him. Kobe's just kind of he's doing his own thing, and but yeah, I think he realizes that was a bad fit at a really bad time.
I still think, Arash, that we're talking to Arash Markazi, LA Times columnist, joining us here, Rich Eisen show. I do think that the Lakers, for them to be successful, Anthony Davis has to play center like 75% of the time, and that's especially true with Kyle Kuzma now back in the lineup. Their best lineup to me is Davis, LeBron, Kuzma in that front court, and fill in the blanks at the backcourt positions. Danny Green, of course, and somebody else. What do you think? I mean, Davis is notoriously reluctant to be a five-man.
Well, so here's the thing. You're not going to start him at center. You're not going to call him a center, but you're basically going to pull him aside and say, you're going to play center. You know, so for whatever reason, he doesn't want to be known as the center. So listen, when you have that big, when we name the starting lineup and you're like introduced, you're not the center. But D'Anthony, when we are in this position to close out a game, you're going to be playing that position. Same with LeBron at point guard. He's not going to start at point guard. He's going to play point guard. Yeah,
I mean, he's going to be the primary ball. They do miss Rondo in the lineup. I mean, Rondo, his basketball IQ is through the charts, and having another playmaker out there is smart. I am happy before we go to the Clippers, I'm very happy to see Frank Vogel get kind of the positive attention he deserves. I have been riding the Frank Vogel train as a good coach. I think he's much more the coach we saw in Indiana that led the Pacers to back-to-back conference finals than the coach we saw over 2 dysfunctional years in Orlando. This is a good basketball coach that if you listen to him and you buy into what he's saying, he will not steer you in a wrong direction.
That's the one thing that I said. I said it's a popularity contest in Los Angeles, and everyone loved Luke because of. But the thing about Luke is that he's not quite a great coach. And I said, with Frank Vogel, you're getting a fantastic experienced coach. So regardless of what they brought in terms of players, just having Frank Vogel as your coach this season is huge.
Yeah, no question. Before we get to the Clippers, specifically on Kawhi Leonard, it was last June, I think, that Doc Rivers made some comments about Kawhi being, analogous to Michael Jordan. The NBA fined him $50,000 for those comments. Kawhi, after the game yesterday, was asked about those comments that Doc Rivers made. Here was what he said. Listen to this.
Kawhi, I don't know if you heard, but over the summer, Doc compared you to Michael Jordan. That question came up today, and he just mentioned how just the similarity between your game. You heard about that comment back in the summer, and what was your reaction to sort of that comparison that you had?
Yeah, I remember it. I think it was before the summertime. He had said it. I think it was during my playoff run. Just one of my friends mentioned it to me that he had said that.
What was your reaction to that? Agree with
initially, I just ran over it because I was in playoffs, just locked in. But you know what I mean? Just be able to, get recognized for my talents and, where I came a long way to where I am now. And it's just showing my hard work is paying off.
$50,000, Doc Rivers was fine for that. Best $50,000 ever that's been spent. Steve Ballmer would have paid 20 times that if the end result was what happened Kawhi Leonard, because that clearly resonated with Kawhi Leonard.
Listen, he loved what that team provided, and talking to Doc about that is sort of that Steve Ballmer, Jerry West, Doc Rivers. He wanted to play for a coach that he respected, and he respected Doc, and he respects what they were doing with the Clippers, and he wanted to do his own thing. I talked to Kobe about this, and he said, listen, it wasn't a knock on LeBron or the Lakers. He wanted his own team. He wanted to do his own thing. And so, listen, the way he's playing right now and the way, I mean, people forget, they still got a top 10 player, Paul George, coming on this team. And, Chris, this is where it's going to be big. I think on most nights, you don't have to have two of those guys. You can do load management in a creative way. If you have a back-to-back where play Paul one night, sit Kawhi. Kawhi one night, sit, you can get creative. And, listen, it's all about June. And Toronto proved that. And I'm sorry for the league because they hate to hear it, but the success Toronto had with load management, that's the trend.
60 games for Kawhi last year or something like that. I think the Raptors 17-5 in the games they play without him. So it was good for them to kind of get that type of ability to play without him. But I think it's incredible seeing, I think what Kawhi's going to be able to do once Paul George comes back, the defensive versatility that team is going to have is really something. We're joined by Arash Markazi, columnist, LA Times, joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk football for a minute. The Chargers win. They beat Green Bay. Convincing win. Great win. Maybe the best of the season so far. And I love your colleague Plaschke, who used the opportunity to have a big Chargers win to say, get that team out of here. That team doesn't belong here. Are we now, even in the short time, is this city ever going to embrace the LA Chargers, or is it just the Rams and nobody else?
The problem with the Chargers is we always view them, and you just had this mistake, is the San Diego Chargers. And they're so close.
Not my first time to show.
I know,
either.
And by the way, officials have made that mistakes, play-by-play people. So they were so close that, Chris, if I wanted to see a Chargers game, it was a 2-hour drive. So it wasn't like we needed them to move here. The problem is Qualcomm was not a pro football stadium anymore. It was, they needed a new facility. And in this day and age, if you don't get the public to help you out with that, and I don't agree with that, but I'm just saying, you're not going to keep a team there. So unless they find a way to build them a brand new stadium in San Diego or somewhere else, they're not going to move because, quite frankly, a few miles away from here, Chris, they're building a $5 billion stadium. And they're going to move in there and they're going to play. And unless someone can build them a new stadium, they're not going to move.
Here's the thing, too. You can't judge a team like the Chargers or the Rams or any team that parachutes into a market for a generation. Because you need the 3- and 4-year-olds who don't know anything about San Diego, that grow up thinking the lightning bolt is cool and Phillip Rivers is great and Melvin Gordon is fun and Bosa is cool to watch. You need those kids to become Charger fans, to have their parents take them to games, and eventually themselves buy tickets and merchandise and become real Charger fans.
I'll give you an example. Bill Plaschke came to our high school, and I wrote about this column. So he talked to our high school about what is it like growing up in Los Angeles without pro football. And we're like, we're fine. We got the Lakers. We got the Dodgers. We're totally fine. So for 21 years, I grew up in Los Angeles without pro football, and now you got two teams here, and they expect us to be hardcore fans. The cheapest ticket for Sunday was $300. The only people buying that ticket are hardcore Green Bay Packers fans. There are not hardcore Los Angeles Charger fans yet.
No, it's like the Nets, and when they parachuted into Brooklyn from New Jersey. I mean, that was just an hour or so away from where they played. But you're not going to get New York fans to embrace your team until you grow a generation of them. It's just the way it is. Before I let you go, give you a lot of grief at all times, but you had a cool video with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I got to ask you about this. I mean, you were doing an interview with Arnold
Terminator
for the LA Times.
Out,
And you and I have been friends for a long time. You've lost over 100 pounds.
130 pounds.
In the last year?
In 1 year.
Tell me about the Arnold story, because you sat down with them and what happened?
Well, so I sit down with them and they only told me, like, listen, you only have 10 minutes, and so I start recording. I'm going to make it quick. And he goes, before we start, I want to congratulate you. And I said, well, but for what? Like, I'm like looking around like he probably thinks I'm someone else. For losing over 100 pounds, he knew my story. He knew that I got on a plane, I couldn't get the seatbelt to fit, and I got on the scale, it was 320. He knew my story that I had tweeted about. I haven't written that story yet. So it was surreal. And he's like, we got to tell your story in Muscle and Fitness. And I thought he was joking. Last week, Chris, Muscle and Fitness calls me up, so I'm going to be in Muscle and Fitness, which is surreal. I mean, the whole thing is incredible, but it is a testament that if you just decide one day, and I know it's not simple because for 15 years I let myself go, if you decide that every day I'm going to work out 60 minutes a day, I'm going to do something, I'm going to watch what I eat, you can do it. And for like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I mean, for him to know my story is still surreal.
So what's the muscle and fitness story going to be?
Well, so his point was like that story is a great story. Like you don't have a six pack or anything yet, but that you could decide one day that I'm going to take care of myself and that I'm going to do cardio, I'm going to lift some weights, I'm going to just try to change my life. And he said, that's a good story. You don't have to be the strongest man in the world to be in that magazine. And so I thought it was nice of him to say, I thought it was a compliment, and I moved on with my life. And then I get a call from Muscle and Fitness that we want you in the magazine. So that was cool.
Please tell me there's a photo shoot involved. I need an Arash. Is the airbrush coming out for that?
Exactly.
Like,
you better believe it.
You got to get the MJ Day SI
That's a good point. That's right.
Airbrush going into that one. That's something. By the way, Arnold, we were talking earlier about, movies you get mileage out of. Like, how much more mileage is Arnold getting out of the Terminator?
He got 15 million, and he was in like half the movie.
He's going to
I'm in. That movie looks awesome.
It was great.
Yeah.
I'm with you. In fact, I mean, I know some people that saw, like the Celtics went to a screening of it, and they really liked it.
It was fun.
Players. I mean, but Arnold's like one of those guys, like, he'll be in like Terminator Hospice. Like that's just like he's gonna be on Terminator. He's gonna be doing these movies till the very end.
Yep.
Like it's same thing with like Bruce Willis in Die Hard.
Yeah.
Like
Why
you will
not?
see. We were talking about the roasts of Bruce Willis. I think it was Jeff Ross that said, "I look forward to your next Die Hard movie, Die Hard 6, Natural Causes." Like that is going to be Bruce Willis's last movie. Very cool to see. To see that. Good for you, man. You've worked hard on this. Is it every day? Because I see your Instagram update.
I try to do it every
drive
day.
me through a wall because I can't handle them.
You've given me a lot of grief, and I
replied
appreciate
to every one of his Instagram posts.
I appreciate that. Like, how many calories is that? Did you work out today? I don't want to forget it. And just go what I did before. And listen, I've done this for like a year, but in previous times, like I've worked out for a week and then I've just stopped. I don't want to. So I want to do something. Listen, in a course of a day, you have 60 minutes. You have 20 minutes to do something. And so the cool thing is whether it's you or someone else saying like, good job. And that encouragement. Schwarzenegger to give me that encouragement, like I'm going to keep going.
That would send me right to the gym. Like I go to the gym.
Drop it, give me 20 immediately.
I'd be doing curls in my car on the way back just because Arnold Schwarzenegger said I look good. Arash, LA Times, great work at the Times. You write, what, twice a week now? Is that
three times? Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday.
Must tax your considerable talents there, Rush.
Exactly.
I gotta tell you. Always appreciate you coming in, my friend. Enjoy the bar mitzvah later. Appreciate it. All right, we'll talk some more NBA a little bit later on in the show. Coming up on 40 minutes past the hour, this is The Rich Eisen Show.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download The Rich Eisen Show app.